this was the way you connected. Much of what you had to say would be left unsaid. Now, there was a time, and that's the way I communicated. And I was constrained by fear and insecurity, and inside of that was some horrendous rage. It is extremely difficult, if you can imagine, to be in a situation where you want to say something, but you can't. In the next couple of minutes, I'm going to share with you my journey of how I found my voice. Is that of any interest? Now, while you're listening to this, I want you to ask yourself a couple of questions. First, what messages are you feeding yourself? What rational lies have you created to stifle your voice? What mentors or teachers do you have in your life or in your environment that you're not taking advantage of? And most importantly, who are you hurting by continuing to play small? To understand how Alexander found his voice, come let me introduce you to Louis. This little boy was born in Antigua, about the same time in the Stone Age as the coach. And Louis, that little boy there, was the firstborn son of Ivan. And the first 4 years of his life was joyous. And then, on January 7th, 1959, it all came to a crashing end. You see, that was the day my sister was born. And not only was that biatch coming into the world to mess up a good thing that I had going. She was the spitting image of my father's mother who died when he was 12. And that wasn't all. She was born on his birthday. So all of a sudden, I went from my boy to the boy. From that day, my father used to talk about his daughter and the boy. Wasn't that smart? So it came to pass that my mother took us and went to England, and at 4 years old I moved to England. And I became a little Englishman. At about 11 or so, my mother told me one day, boy, now you have to understand this woman. If you were to pick up the phone and speak to her, she would speak ever so terribly properly and sound like the Queen of England. But when she talked to me like this. And she said, boy, you have to go back to Antigua and get some culture. When I was 11, I couldn't talk like this. And on top of that, I had this stuttering. When I went back in Antigua, my high school friends used to call me Tata Pata. So it came to pass that this little boy was smart enough to get a scholarship, and I ended up in South America, in Guyana. So about 6 weeks into being in the country, I went to this party. And you have to understand, have a cool bell bottoms on them, plus you have to have the walk. So I go into this party. Me and my partner there, I come around the corner, come into the party, we move, and I saw this vision, this goddess. She about 5'10", ebony goddess, had legs up to here. She wearing this wicked pair of purple satin hot pants and booty to die for. So, she had that walk. You know the walk? Some of you in here have it. That walk where she looked like she floated. And I see this woman and I was smitten. However, couldn't talk. So all the other bumblebees circling the honey. And here I am standing in the corner, fidgeting, wanting to say something. Couldn't talk. As they're trying to say things, I want to say something, but my mom was too dry. So time passed. And I went back to my regular routine, which was go to class and play basketball. Now you wouldn't guess I would play basketball. Really. And over the next 4 or 5 weeks, 2 to 3 times a week when I came home from basketball, there at the bottom of the stairs was the goddess talking to my other 3 roommates. Now we lived in a guest house on the top floor. The landlady was downstairs. She didn't allow any women upstairs. So the 3 island boys sitting on the stairs, the goddess in one of her hot pants, I'd come on the corner of a bicycle and I used to have this smooth move and just dismount and hold the bike and steady. I had to act out because I couldn't talk. So every time she would ask a question and I wanted to say something, one of the other 3 would chime in with an answer. You have no idea of the frustration you feel when you can out-think them by a month, but you can out-talk you by a week. And I was sitting there, and I was angry, but I couldn't talk. And every time she said something to me, I would just grunt and move on. Well, I knew I had to do something about it. And about 6 weeks later, we went to this barbecue at the Pegasus Hotel. And everybody who was anybody in Georgetown was there. And so was the goddess. And she had on this red, like second skin, red mini skirt thing, and she had to walk, and she walked in. I said, tonight I'm going to talk to her. Tonight I'm going to dance with this woman. And of course I had to get a little courage. So I went and I got about 3, 4, 5 rum and coke. And after I get up enough courage and decide it's time, I'm going to make my move. You have to understand that night I have on one of my best bell bottoms. A polyester shirt. And I'm looking smooth, So I take my move and I step out. And I had planned to say, would you like to dance? But no, nothing coming out. So I just took up my hand. She took it, walked to the dance floor. And the first thing she said to me was, what took you so long? Now, we danced, We had a good time. And as I was walking her home that night, she asked me again, "What took you so long?" I stuttered out my explanation. And she stopped me, and she put her hands on my shoulder, and she says, "I knew we would be together the first moment I saw you." Now you must understand, this woman was one of the top models in Guyana. Every other man was around this, like she was the sun and they were the planets. But I was Pluto. She followed that up with, "Don't you understand when you walk into a room, women get excited?" Boom! It's like I had a bolt of lightning go off in the back of my head. And all of a sudden, I had this different vision of what possibilities could exist for me. Well, I gotta tell you, the rest of that night was a blur. I remember every second of it. I'm gonna have to tell you. Let it suffice to say that the next morning I wake up and I had this voice. Wow. Over the next couple of months, well, first off, for the next 3 weeks, I slept with the windows open because I was convinced that if this was a cold, I wasn't going to lose it. Because I like this voice. I also, in the next 6 months, I grew another 3 inches. And if you get to know me, I can show you the stretch marks. And anybody who has children, you know what that looks like. I have stretch marks because I grew that fast. I put on like about 35 pounds and grew about 3 inches, and I found my voice. However, decades would go by before I actually claimed it. It's one thing to find your voice. It's another thing to claim it. I claimed my voice starting with an experience after an event like this. I walked up to Dov and I said, "Thank you very much. I really appreciate it." And he looked at me in that way he does. And I looked in the eye and says, "When are you going to stop around and take control of your life?" And in that moment, I had this urge to pound it. Who does this little Becky is to tell me about taking control of my life? I'm in control. But it struck a chord. And I started working with him personally. And I applied and was accepted into the Authentic Speaker Academy for Leadership. And I gotta tell you, one of the cycles that I knew I had to break was my tendency to be interested and not committed. Because I've been interested in a lot of things. And I had this tendency that when I got close to the finish line, take my foot off the gas and go do something else because this was boring. And I can tell you, Al wasn't the only one that came close to quitting. In fact, I did one of my principles, my life, my power, no excuses. Because I recognized I could have been right and quit. Or, of course I had my foot straight up my ego. And I could have been right and quit. Or I could suck it up, princess, and push through to the end and acquire a lifelong skill. Because I am dedicated to be of service. And I learned from Dov that you can't hear me unless I can feel it. So, did you feel the frustration of little Louis?
Yeah. Yes.
Can you imagine the rage that would be in that little boy? To this day, I walk around with a touchstone saying gratitude in my pocket, because the rage isn't completely gone. And every now and then, when it starts to creep up and tap me on the shoulder, I put my hand in my pocket. And one of the things I've learned to do is to take care of Louis. I used to leave Louis behind. Yes, I too did the Anthony Robbins stuff. And I too had my meeting with Louis, but I told him I could take it from here. Well, that was a load of crap. The fact of the matter is, I need to connect with Louis. And that's why the Island Boy come out every now and then. Because me and Louis, we tighten up. I want to tell you a little bit about the Authentic Speaker Academy for Leadership. You know that there's transformation involved. You know that if Louis can do it, you can do it. You know that if it's to be, it's up to you. I asked you some questions earlier. What messages are you giving yourself that are lies, that are not true? I gave myself these lies, these messages. I was second to my sister. I was less. I didn't have the ability to get that girl. Because they were way better looking, they were way more eloquent. But it's just the lies I was telling myself. What mentors do you have in your life, in your environment, that could be helping you, guiding you, who could hold a vision for you that's bigger than you want to accept yet, that if you let them, could take you along? There's a couple of us in here who are prepared to help. And the most important one is, who are you cheating by continuing to play small? So suck it up, princess. This program is not for you if you think you have all the answers. If you think that it's memorizing and being a mannequin, it's not that. Because you have to feel it. You have to be connected to it. And you have to be what? I can't hear you. Thank you. Now, I am very grateful that Dov had the guts to hold a vision of me that I had no way of accepting. If you had suggested to me last year at the last CYC Edge that I would be doing this, I would laugh at you. Yeah, right. Because I have spoken in public, but when I was a subject matter expert, I didn't realize I was a subject matter expert in my own life. I was comfortable when I started about technology. I was never comfortable talking about it. But now you know, you used to be that guy. And because of God and this program, I'm no longer. So, if you have any intention of claiming your own voice, if you are prepared to stop playing small, before you leave here today, start the audition process and be one of the dozen people that are going to be in the Authentic Speaker Academy for Leadership. Are you prepared to try that? Enough about me. Let me talk about somebody who I'd like you to help me welcome. My friend, my mentor, Dov Barrett.